I'm doubting myself. I know the devil was creeping in. I'm doubting myself. And that's when I started to have suicidal thoughts. I felt like a failure. I felt less of a man. I felt like the world would be better without me. Before I get into the story of my darkest moment, this is going to be a testimony of God, because sometimes you have to go through the test before the testimony. And I'm a walking testament. Yes, I am a full ambassador of God and Jesus Christ. I've been saved. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Ignite the World podcast. This is episode number 18, my darkest moment, my fight with mental health and how God saved me. I am your host, Jamie Dottie Garza, and this episode right here, let me just warn you guys. When I started this platform, I knew that this day would come where I could share this full testimony of one of my most darkest and vulnerable moments in my life. And God has told me that it is now time to share this story with you, because when you think of me, it'd be the strongest people. I'm going to tell you guys straight up right now, it'd be the strongest people you have to check on. I don't get checked on often because I'm quote unquote strong. But let me just say this. If you see tears come through my eyes, just know it's coming from a place of vulnerability, a place of where I'm supposed to share this story with someone. That's what God has done. And if anyone who knows me or knows of me or seen these videos, I'm really him as far as being positive on front of this camera and when the camera stopped rolling. A lot of people in my community look at me as a positive figure, this guy with so much positive energy, just a light. So these are all things, right, that God has blessed me with. But when I was in my darkest moment in 2021 in December, I was putting on a front to keep that momentum going, but inside I was absolutely empty, dark, depressed, down bad. And in this episode, I'm going to share it all with you guys today. Today is currently recording it. Today is May 7th, but you guys are going to get this tomorrow. And it is May 7th, 2023. Mental Health Awareness Month. How fitting, right? You see? Before I get into the story of my darkest moment, this is going to be a testimony of God, because sometimes you have to go through the test before the testimony. And I'm a walking testament. Yes, I am a full ambassador of God and Jesus Christ. I've been saved, and I've really been saved because 2 days ago, shout out to Reverend Baker at Third Mount Zion Baptist Church, I got rebaptized. I got baptized earlier in my life, in 1989, August of 1989, so I wasn't even full 1 year old yet. But I feel you go through life, God has blessed you, but God gives you free will, right? And I drifted off. I drifted off from the Lord. And I had to find things on my own to get back in tune. And this whole past year, I've been working on myself. And I'm going to get into more of the story of how I got back working on myself. Letting go of demonic strongholds that have always, now I see, have kept me down. Things like liquor, alcohol, smoking weed, listening to low vibrational music, certain narcissistic characters or people in my life. I had to make a shift. And once I started leaning into the Bible, leaning into Christ, that's when I was able to get discernment. And that's how I have the courage right now to speak to you guys right now, because it's not even about me, all right? I got baptized again, and it was the culmination of everything. Seeds planted, and I'm going to share that in this podcast episode to hopefully inspire someone out there, because I am now an ambassador for God. I am now a disciple of Christ, and it is my duty, he told me, to share with you guys. Oh, man. And talk about being convicted. My pastor, even at church today, was talking about being in darkness. Yes, he was talking about being in dark and how sometimes even in your darkest moment, he put a towel over his head that you can't see the light. You can't see what's after. But what he told me yesterday when I was getting baptized is he said, what the devil does is he tries to confuse you. He tries to put fear in you. He tries to make you have doubt of who you really are. And he tries to convict you of all that. But the devil is a liar. And that's when I immediately knew for a fact that, wow, my culmination is here. I have to share this story. And it has to happen right now. And that's what we're going to do today. This is probably going to be a long episode, but I got to get this word out. And I pray that it can help someone who's either one went through this or is in it right now. You got to go through it to get to it. And even when a time where it doesn't feel, you might feel despair. It might feel like you want to throw that white towel. I'm here to tell you that it ain't over till God says it's over. Okay? I remember being depressed. I remember being in a place where there wasn't nowhere to go. I was 33 when this happened. I felt like I couldn't talk to even my best friends about it. Literally, the story I'm about to share with you, less than 5 people know. Okay? Not including my wife and my mama. There's like 2 or 3 others who know. Okay? Bear with me. When I was looking for help, I didn't want to go to the typical means of mental health therapists or talking out to a complete stranger. Try to do it all on my own. And even on YouTube, I was just looking for people my age because a lot of the people I surround myself with, they're already older than me, 10 years older than me. A lot of people, they're older than me. So I always wanted to know what it was like for them, for someone to be my age at 33 going through it. And that's why I have a passion in making this video, because maybe it could connect with those looking for the same thing on YouTube. I found 2 people I want to shout out real quick. Shout out to Mark the Messenger and shout out to Doug Block, Healing from Depression. Those 2 channels helped me along the way too. Very God-centric, very lean into Christ. And hopefully, I could be a vessel too. And hopefully I love making this because even I think about the future of my kids or my family members who I'm not in constant contact with. Maybe this can serve as hope and maybe lean them in more to God. Let's talk about that December of 2021. So on paper, 2021 was probably the most phenomenal year of my life. Okay? We're talking growth. We're talking finally getting through COVID. The mask mandates are slowly but surely lifting, right? We're talking about a time where I finally got married, May 21st, 2021. I got engaged. Prior to that, weddings got canceled twice because of COVID. Everything had to get pushed back. What was going down this year, right? I got nominated locally for Best of the Burg for Best Videographer, Video Production. Won that. I was nominated and also won Entrepreneur of the Year from local Fredericksburg Regional Chamber of Commerce. All right, so this is all aligning. April. April came, 33 came, I turned 33. Actually started, I remember. No, I take that back. I was going to say I stopped drinking of 2021. No, that was the year after. But April came, I turned 32, I won the award, Entrepreneur of the Year. Next month, May came. To God all the glory. To God be the glory. We funded everything ourselves. No handouts, nothing. We we made it happen. That's all God right there. We funded the whole wedding, invested in that moment, that experience for our family, friends, and I married my life partner who's been on this journey with me, my wife, Kayana. I love you so much. I'm going to get more into her because she's the one who really planted the seed of me getting into God from the very beginning. That's my partner right there. We did that. Again, I won some award, Best of the Berg. So all this is momentum going. Business is getting back to quote unquote normal. You know, I survived. So we're going through everything. And it seemed like it was going very well. You know, I realize now that I put a lot of my mental health, quote unquote, issues on the back burner. Self-care, when we talk about communications, you know, now I have a partner and we're just going through life. Like, because after the marriage, right, everything still goes. You know, I'm still recouping from COVID, recouping from a lot of things, okay? I'm just trying to stay consistent, keep things rolling. I do, at this point in life, I do have a sense of what God is. I am getting more into living his word, but it was baby steps, right? Even shout out to Reverend Baker, my pastor, baptized me, who I look up to, admire a lot, and his knowledge, his wisdom, just how he carries himself as a man, as a leader. And he's been pastoring for 25 years. He celebrated that 2 weeks ago. So that's the man right there. He married us. That day, I remember I wrote my vows and I was quoting scriptures in the Bible. And I say that because this is kind of like showing where I wanted to go, where I saw my life. But in reality, I was still having demonic strongholds in my life, you know, like keeping me in bondage. So it seemed like because I couldn't get it all together. I remember in the summer, that same year, 2021, that's when my wife, she wasn't really seeing, her management was really degrading her, I felt like. And me being a husband, I never liked to see my wife upset. And it was to a point where it was just draining, like talking about she wasn't a leader or whatnot. I don't even remember the full conversation. That's irrelevant right now. But what wasn't irrelevant at the time was how she was feeling. And I remember, you know, we had a quick discussion of what it would look like if she just stayed home, you know, because at that time, you know, we have 2 boys, a rising teenager and a young 5-year-old. And I was like, screw them. Your mental health is everything, you know, and that's when a lot of things shifted, you know, and we're learning how it will work, you know, learning to be a stay-at-home mom. That meant more communication with us, a lot of patches we had to figure out along the way, just us, because we're married now. But again, everything's going so fast. After we got married, it's a consistent thing, right? This is the stuff they don't tell you after you get married. And also financially, like, okay, how are we going to replace this income? So me, I've always been determined. I'm an entrepreneur, like, always have faith. My wife taught me have more faith. So I'm very optimistic. I'm like, hey, we're gonna make this happen. You know, I do it first, ask questions later. So we're managing. And I remember it getting near. Now I know my slow times tend to be like in the winter time. And in that winter time of 2021 is approaching, like near Thanksgiving, you know, my clients, I'm not bringing in a lot of clients. Like a lot of projects are halting, a lot of weddings weren't picking back up yet. Now I'm blessed to have a pillar in the wedding industry, but a lot of things were slowing down, still trying to pick back up because it's recoup year, right? And I remember it just trickling down, it seems like, and things at Thanksgiving, because my mental health was burnt out. This is just, give you guys context. I'm speaking from a place of healing, right? I've healed from this. This isn't from a place of you guys having sympathy for me or am I okay? I had to fully heal from this to be able to share this, because if I wasn't, I wouldn't be able to break down the synopsis of what it really was and what I was really going through at the time. So walk with me. Money's a little funny, right? Going in November, I know Christmas is approaching. And as a man of the home, I have kids, I have a wife. I've always been taught that you make it happen, no excuses. And that's that accountability I have. I admire my grandpa for being that type of man too. Growing up and seeing that all the time, even when my grandma would always stay at home with the kids, like, I felt like I was becoming a failure, and I was taking it personally, and I was starting to doubt myself. And that's how I know now that the devil was creeping in, because I was associating the value of who I am as a person because certain revenue wasn't coming in to provide, quote unquote, the best experience for my family, especially since Christmas is coming. It's getting cold outside. Oh, it was getting cold. And I was arguing a lot with my wife about money. We're trying to figure things out. We're still trying to figure out, like, learn each other. Because now as a time, like, we're really together. Like, there's no work involved. We're really under the same roof. Communication enhanced. And that's one thing I'm blessed that she's home now, because our communication has just been reignited, and we're learning as we go. We still are. We go through a few weeks. That seemed like the longest December. I remember vividly, like, as I go back to December 2021, we're going through the weeks, and I'm barely getting projects. You know, I'm barely scraping by. I'm becoming I'm just depleted, fatigued. Most of the contracts I booked, they didn't want to start till January. So it was like, man, I'm just banking on faith. You know, I'm deeper in prayer. I'm stressed. I am depressed. I have anxiety. I'm a hot mess express. I'm doubting myself. I know the devil was creeping in. I'm doubting myself, and that's when I started to have suicidal thoughts. And it was getting more intense and more intense every week. Like, I was really considering my family and people, the world would be better without me. It wasn't until, and this ain't nothing but God, what I'm about to tell you. It wasn't until leading up to Christmas on the 25th. It was December 21st, 2021. I'm going downtown now. I'm going to an event. You know, I was serving as a board of director for Fredericksburg downtown Main Street, and they're having their Christmas party. My wife just told me to go show love, right? Because that's the type of person I am. I always show love. I'm very positive and just love being around people. And I was depressed. I didn't want to do much of everything. Mind you, during this, I'm still president of a BNI networking chapter that I'm president of. You know, there's 32 people. Each and every week I'm showing up like it's showtime, go time, like nothing's wrong with me. I'm not communicating to nobody. I'm not communicating this to my best friends. I'm not communicating this to my mom. I'm not communicating this to nobody, right? I'm trying to get through it myself. Even my wife was like, oh, you should go see a therapist. I'm not knocking therapists, but at that time, I didn't want to tell my situations and what I'm going through to a stranger. They get paid to listen. And I'm not knocking them. I'm just telling you what I was thinking. I was like, I'll get through this, because one thing I realized, I have these wirings in my family. Like, the more I get in tune with my father and learning what he goes through, what he's been going through, or what he's fought, I'm like, man, I'm wired like that. Now, you got to understand, I never lived with my father. We've always lived on coast to coast side. So here I am now as a grown man trying to piece things together, because you know what? Like, my kids might be wired like that. Back to the story though, and that's no blame at all. This is just simply what is. When we talk about mental health, this is what is. Back to the topic, leading up to going to visit and show love on December 21st, 2021. It's about 5:30 p.m. I'm just strolling through. I'm feeling myself. Like, one thing I had this truck, and it was wrapped, and it had my company logo, and it was a prized possession of mine because I felt like something with it, right? I felt like the man. I felt successful. You couldn't tell me nothing that wasn't my Lamborghini. I was so proud of that. And it was materialistic. And this is the thing that God says in the Bible: do not love anything of this world, including materialistic things, because that is not of him. I'm rolling through, normal. Not even on my phone, cruising. All of a sudden, I heard the smash, and I feel the truck just moving, and I got a little shooken up, and I just see this big old truck next to me just shooing me away to the other side of the lane when I was turning in to go downtown near the Captain D's. Shout out to the pecan pie, though. Captain D's pecan pie lit. And I'm in shock. I'm like, holy crap, what just happened? It was cloudy that day. It was mundane weather. And it's a blur to me now. I couldn't even open my door. And the gentleman was blown because he just got that new work car. It was a nice red truck. And he was blown, but I smelled alcohol in his breath. And he was trying to say it was my fault. Thank God there was this civilian who saw everything go down, and we waited. I didn't know what to do. Like, I called my wife, and she told me protocol and everything, and wait till the sheriff came, the guy everything wrote down, and my car was jacked up. Like, that thing wasn't moving anywhere. My wife came, my mother-in-law came. I was shooken up. I was completely fine. I didn't have to go to a doctor or anything, but in my head, I wasn't appreciative of that. I'm just like, man, what about my car? What am I gonna do? Because I was attached to that thing. We go through that. I still went to the event too, by the way. I still showed up. My wife said, you're going. I show my love. I didn't get to give Ann a gift. Shout out to Ann. She was the current president, the executive director at the time. And I showed love, and I told him the incident. And, at that point when I got home, I felt defeated. But I remember my stepson saying, he's glad that I'm still here. He thought, I was going to die. And I remember, and that's tough for him too, because his father passed away. I remember that night I was in the recliner just quiet, and I was like just thinking, close my eyes, and I remember drifting off asleep, and my son Carter, I think he's 5 at the time, going on 6, and he just turned 5, yeah. He's talking to me, and I felt like I couldn't talk to him. Like, he was talking to me, but I couldn't talk to him. And I cried because I'm like, man, that might be how it feels if I were to die, right? So I'm emotional at that point, and I'm starting to be blessed that, I'm still here for him. Well, once that happened, I just felt like, could it get any worse? Leading up to this, my wife lost family members in October. Like, it just seems like after our marriage, just the devil was just working, and things were just, darkness was happening, right? So all this culmination, all these things are leading up. And then that happened on the 21st, going to the 22nd. Christmas still has to happen. I remember at my mom's, you always come for Christmas Eve. I didn't want to see nobody. And this is rare for me because I usually love seeing family and being around them. I did not want to go. My wife had to literally force me to go. I played it off well, though. My mom ain't really know too much. I took pictures, but I look at those pictures and you can see in my eyes I wasn't there. I'm stressed because I wasn't able to provide, the best Christmas for my kids. And it's a lot of pressure too. I felt a lot of pressure, not from necessarily family, but it's just, I felt like a failure. I felt less of a man. I felt like the world would be better without me. And those suicidal thoughts started creeping more intensely, more intensely. And I remember just being like, didn't want to move. I didn't want to, my bills were late. I didn't want to move. I remember being at recliner. It was cold. And I would just want to sleep all day. I didn't want to get up. And I know it was very tough for my wife to see, and she ain't used to seeing that. And she really had to hold down the fort and try to be. I was the only one talking to her. I didn't want to express this to nobody, so it's a lot. She's trying to do her best to motivate me. My kids is asking me, "Daddy, you okay?" My son Carter, "Daddy, what's wrong?" Like he's like me. You can sense, he senses energy, and he kept giving me a lot of hugs, and he had no clue what was going on. I'm feeling bummed about myself. I've given up at this point. And I remember, oof, man, I remember just waking up every morning and looking outside and praying. I remember Christmas came, made what we could. The kids ain't noticed too much. My wife had a lot of grace with me. Christmas came and it was time to go to her mom's house, or her mom's side of the family. And for once, out of the many years I've known my wife for over 10 years. I've been going to their family functions for a long time. I didn't want to go. I didn't want nobody to see me like this. I didn't want nobody asking questions. I didn't want no one to see. I was focused. I wasn't there mentally. I think they probably knew that because I'm not that type of person. I remember clear as day. I wrote in my journal too. I wrote all this down in my journal. I kid you not. It's all documented. I was tearing up reading it before I got on this camera. I pray, keep fighting, blessed to be in my body. Like, these are all things I'm talking about after the car wreck leading up to Christmas, and verbatim, Christmas came. I said, I'm officially beaten. Tears filled my eyes and body. I really let down this family. She went out that night, and it was about 7 p.m. I stayed home. She took the kids. And that night, the devil really tried to take a hold of me. I ain't shared this with nobody. About 8 p.m. it's just me and my dog, Jack. I remember there was a razor, right? A straight razor. And at that point, I'm screaming loud. And I'm contemplating just having that blade hit my throat. And I'm thinking just how easy it would be just to be maybe at peace, or my kids would maybe be happier, or things like that. I think I would be doing a service, for everybody's sake. Because at that time, there was no other way. But through the grace of God, and this is what I realize now, like, I screamed 3 times. My dog is shaken up. He's just looking at me. I just envision myself, like, if my family comes home and Carter comes home, this is what they're going to see. And I fought through it. I'm so happy I did. It wasn't even me. It was God the whole time. Darkest mode of my life. And it didn't help. I wrote farewell notes. I couldn't finish Carter's. That's how deep I was in this, right? And it didn't help that just after the Christmas, that we had the biggest snowstorm ever in January, and like that storm was like a blizzard, and it's just cold, and I'm down bad, and finances, and like how's rent gonna get paid, like everything, and the checks are just being sent, and it's just delayed because things ain't getting sent. I'm done at that point. And what I realize now from that point is that that was the worst time of my life. If I would have let the devil take over that time, I would not have been able to experience the birth of my daughter. I didn't find out my wife was pregnant till mid-January 2022. I would not have been blessed enough to be baptized and born again. I would not have been blessed to baptize to share this story, what I came from, and hopefully inspire someone. I would not have been blessed enough. I just signed up for my youngest son's field day, be a volunteer this Thursday. I would have been able to enjoy the food that my wife cooked, and she threw it down with some cornbread, mac and cheese, and green beans. I don't eat the meat, but my kids, I would not have had that moment today. I would have not be able to go to church with them. I would have missed out on a lot of moments, man. I wouldn't be making this podcast and sharing my voice. No. I fought through, and God helped me each and every way. See, sometimes, let me get to it. Sometimes God will isolate you, because that's what he did with me. He isolated me. Yeah. You see, he made it so I had to stay isolated by myself and lean into him. I had no other option. See, I drifted away too much. See, I read in the Bible about the book of Job, and he did the same thing. I really resonate with that portion of the Bible for some reason, because Job had it all. He had the wife, he had immense, he was successful, he had everything in line. And then God tested, he told the devil, go ahead, try him. He one of mine. He ain't gonna flip. He took everything away from him. And even in a point, now my wife didn't flip on me. She kept me in it. I'm telling you, I give her all the praise. She told me to still have faith. She taught me to lean in more. I love you for that, baby. But in the book of Job, his wife wasn't like that. She tried to go against him and be like, God isn't real. Why do you believe he just took everything from you? But he overlooked. He kept the faith. And eventually he was blessed immensely, tenfold. See, I feel like God was calling me, but I wasn't hearing it. I didn't know how to hear it. I didn't have discernment. I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have the wisdom. I was still living in bondage. And it wasn't until I leaned in and really, and I was lukewarm for God. Man, I'm probably less than lukewarm. I'm probably like, when you go in the shower and you turn that cold knob, I was probably in the cold. But 2022 came, and things started like opening up in February, and I was seeing more light. And that's when I started to dive in more in the word of God. That's when I started to believe. That's when I started to quit things like alcohol. That's when I started to reframe, like, I don't want to curse no more. I want to be a better example. That's when I started to like take my mental health really more serious. And I realized I gave it all to God. I didn't go to a therapist. I gave it to him. And I still do. But I also take time to walk. I pray each and every day. I don't pray just because I need something. I'm walking prayer. I'm talking to him. I'm thankful. I have a gratitude attitude. I'm having the faith of now. Like, I'm living his word. So that's why when that culmination happened, I built myself up for a whole year. He has built myself up. It has nothing to do with me. I'm just a vessel right now. I'm just talking the truth. He built me up. He's the reason why I'm still here. He's the reason for it all. It could be all gone for me, but he has blessed me to see another day and blessed me with so much things I'm so grateful for to have. He cannot bless me anymore. It's fine. He doesn't have to. It took me a year to finally get to this point. It took me a year, almost 2 years to even speak about it. But this is what he wanted. He wanted me to give him the praise. He wanted me to share this story. He wanted me to be on fire for him, because that's what I am right now. I'm serving the kingdom of God, and I'm doing the best to be as righteous as I can, because I'm the type of person, ain't nobody going to pull my card anything different. I can't be one step here. Oh, how is he a man of God this? And he's still turning up on weekends, or he's doing this. Nah, that's not going to be. I want to be the example, right? I want to be living his word. The people I look up to are pastors like Pastor Reverend Baker, right? Like, let me stop alcohol, because alcohol just keeps my ego mind afloat, and it just lets the devil creep in. Let me stop smoking marijuana. Yeah, you think it's like it's legal now in Virginia. It might be healing your body per se, or putting you at ease. No, you're letting the devil seep in. Let me stop listening to low vibrational music that doesn't keep me in my highest frequency. Let me start trying to reduce my cursing. I'm almost there, y'all. And I'm proud of myself for it. Let me start staying disciplined. Let me start fasting for God. Let me start reading more of the Bible. Let me start taking notes. Let me start praying more often every day. Let me start these things. So when I got baptized 2 days ago, I cried. I cried like a baby, because I was born again. I really mean that. And I know what comes with that. And I know it's not just going to church on a Sunday. It's living his word each and every day. It's asking God for my steps each and every day. It's being the best vessel I can for him, representing him each and every day. It's having a peace of mind, like, you know what? I know I'm in the assignment because God's giving me peace right now. He's giving my family peace right now. We got to stay in that. It's not casting stones at somebody who's not there already. No, it's understanding, because that's all it is. I'm just blessed and grateful right now that I'm still here. I've grown from that moment, my darkest moment ever. And it feels so good to express this to everybody. Someone who's so positive, who seems like he has it all. Well, guess what? I didn't at that time. I'm still learning. I'm only 34. I have a long ways to go, but I trust it because I am in God's. Let me rephrase this. I'm not controlling the vehicle no more. I'm rolling shotgun. He's in the driver's seat. He is leading. There's a verse that I love. It's Jeremiah 29:11, and it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." That verse right there saved me. That's one of my favorite verses. Back. So when we talk about mental health, yes, it is a thing. Check on your friends, check on your family members. Are they okay? I can't express this part of who's been affected and people I know right now, because that's not my story to tell their story. But let's just say I have people I legit have a lot of love for, that I care for, that may even be my own blood, who are dealing with this. Yes, I have conversations, and I told them I would make this episode because it is a thing. You gotta, anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, doubting yourself, fears. We gotta protect our strongest muscle, which is our mental. And for me, it was for God to bring God back fully in my life, submit to God, and let him use me, mold me. He's still molding me. It's also every day staying consistent. I have to take walks. I have to be in the present. I can't think too much about the future because it hasn't even come yet. One thing I've learned, that we can't, our eyes, our vision is not God's vision. You know, sometimes we want to rush things. Who are we to rush things of God at his timing? That's disrespectful for him. I say this all the time. He doesn't see good or bad. He simply sees what is. Like when I was going through my trials and I was going through my darkness and I was going through that, there was light still always there. He just saw what had to happen for me to elevate, to listen, and give me a chance. Anyone going through any situations similar to what I said, or are in that trial right now, is in that test, who's fighting the darkness right now, I just want to let you know you are not alone. You're never alone. God is right there. Jesus Christ is with you at all times. I'm a walking testament of that. Again, I'm the same person, full transparency, that didn't want to go into therapy or talk to a therapist about it. There's great services to help you. My path that I took, it was separate, but somewhere deep inside my Holy Spirit and the spirit that I have, I realized, I knew that God was calling me, because he says, few are chosen. He says, many are called, few are chosen. I picked up the call. I had to go through it to get to it. I would not be here right now using this voice that he's enhancing for this new chapter, perhaps, of what my life is becoming. And it's not ironic that now all of a sudden I'm working. I got baptized, right? I'm really connecting with pastors. Now I'm going to be serving as the video production ministry in that, giving back, right? A few weeks prior, a pastor, shout out to Pastor Keenan Thomas at New Sight, they reached out to me to do videos for, right? Just 2 weeks before that, last month, I literally worked with the clergy, a group of pastors in downtown Fredericksburg, for a project. Very faith-based, God-based organization. The people I'm meeting, bridging gaps, even with this podcast, who I'm impacting. I get messages all the time that I'm extremely grateful for. I just want, as long as one person hears it, because it's not me right now. It's not serving me. It's beyond me. I'm at that point in life, again, like anything that happens in life and anything, the glory and stuff, it doesn't go to me. Oh, that's such a great video. You helped me. It's beyond me. I'm just using the gifts God gave me. Glory to God. I'm so thankful that you enjoyed it. That's what it is. I'm living different. I'm just so thankful my wife rode with me through this. She cried when I was getting baptized too, because it was all it is. You see, that's the thing. I remember 2017. My son was about to be, I think he was turning 2 at the time. Oh, actually 1. He was on the way to 1. He was born in 2016. He's about to be 1. I remember there's a photo, because I always used to knock church. I was that straight away from it. I wasn't believing. I was believing in the universe and manifestation and all these things that's new age worship. That's not in the Bible. And this is knowledge and wisdom I have now. The zodiac signs, things of that nature. That's just leading astray. That's just blind leading the blind. I was like, oh, what are we going to go to church for? Why you have to go to church to worship? My pastor said something about that too. He said, you don't have to go to the church to worship. You're supposed to be living the word every time, but why not have a home church to hear the word? And I encourage you guys, when you are looking for a church, I found the best church, found the best pastor. You pray for discernment, and God will give you discernment. He will give you the knowledge and wisdom so you can make that, but it has to be a soul that you feel convicts you who are living that life. My pastor, I know for a fact, is, like, I'm telling you straight up. Anyways, I remember knocking it, and I remember I took something from that, though, because Reverend Baker was talking about how Noah waited for rain. Like, he was literally telling his wife that something's about to happen that's never happened before. How can you describe something that's never happened before and you wait that long to even see the rain? I remember that story. And that's when the seed was planted. But my wife planted the seed way beyond anything. I was just living in bondage. I just had certain things in me that was just demonic, that was just narcissistic, that was just the old me. But I had to go through the old me to be where I am now. And I feel like that's what makes my story truthful, and hopefully I can resonate with people, because it wasn't all good per se. love and suffering unite us to God. If it was all good, we wouldn't really need him, right? You gotta embrace the darkness with the light. I'm just a vessel. I just want to send love to everybody. And again, mental health is a thing. Whatever you have to do to get to help. One thing I'd still do to this day is I journal. I journal my thoughts. I'm glad I do because, we could try to memorize everything, but it's great for reflection. Like I was crying even more crazy than I was on this episode when I was reading these and just the documentation, but it helps brain dump, as I call it. Definitely, get some activity in your life. I like to walk in silence. I embrace the silence. That's when I feel like I talk to God the most. I would strongly recommend getting some movement. 10 minutes doesn't have to be too wild. Get outside though. Hear the birds. Observe different things. Be in the moment, the present moment. Like I said, there's two ways that this could have happened. You could just look at the past and that just ruin your whole mood for right now. Or you can learn from your past, recognize it, move on, be in that moment. Or you could think about tomorrow or next week or next month. Again, I've seen avalanche blessings come out of nowhere. Sometimes I ain't know, like, dang, I don't know how that's going to get paid. And then all of a sudden I get an invoice cleared or I get an email or form or something like, hey, can we do this project? Like, that ain't nothing but God. You don't know his vision. Things that I didn't even realize I would connect with a person and it's not even just financial. And I know in my story, a lot of it was financial, but I'm talking about like even, I'm pregnant. Like, I never envisioned me having another child. I know my mom and my grandma was like, you gotta have a girl. Like, they've been pushing that agenda for like 4 years. I was like, shoot, Carter, he's my 6-year-old. He got long hair. Just imagine if he was a girl. But that my daughter, Kari, saved my life, man. Like, my wife says something about that. She was like, my kids come at the time where my darkest points. And it's so true. Kari, literally, she had all the answers from God when she came here. Like, I have a strong connection with her. Even when she was in the womb, I was talking to her. And just the way, she's a baby, she doesn't talk, but she knows because she came from God. Like, the closest thing to come to God. The recent thing, like, so I'm so grateful and blessed, and I can't stress that enough, you guys. I want you guys to take from this what you need to take from it. Understand that there are people like me. You have probably friends and family who are like me, who probably won't ever open up. You would never know. And all these people are walking through our lives each and every day. They're putting their face on, whether at work or on social media, or they're struggling inside. All I'm here to tell you is to check on your strong friends, to show love, to be conscious, because you never know what someone's going through. I remember during that time, I'm not going to say no names, but there was times where, money was tight in my situation, and me and my wife trying to make things work, and some things were being said of, oh, why you don't have this together? Why you looking like, yo, that hurt. That hurt both of us, but the real situation is we in this trial right now. It's a little crunchy right now, and you never know. Just be careful what you say to people, and have some grace, because God gives us grace all the time. God gave me grace for years. He let me drift off. He let me try to do things my way. I was trying to speed up processes. I was trying to find loopholes and cracks in here. Nah, it don't work like that. It never works like that. Once you're connected with him, he'll always have you. And the devil, the enemy, will never prosper. You just gotta stay prayed up. Prayed up. I can't stress that enough. A lot of prayer and just trust and faith. You got this, though. If you're hearing this and you need confirmation, you got this. You are loved. Trust me, you are loved. You're making an impact for somebody's life. I guarantee you. You might not feel like that, but you can't be stinking selfish. It's beyond you. You're here for a reason. And as long as you have God in your life, you will always be loved. I'm telling you. And He's with you all the time. Yeah. God is great. If you don't have a relationship with Him, I strongly encourage you to start one, and it's never too late. You might be like me, oh, what do I do when I pray? Just pray. Just talk like a regular conversation. What I do when I pray, as I always praise, when I first start praying, I start having the gratitude attitude, everything I'm thankful for. Things, it could be small things like I'm thankful for this water. I do this often when I wake up and after I drop my kids off at school. And then I go into repenting, like things where I fall short of. We all fall short, and I always admit it. I'm not too harsh on myself, but I just want to acknowledge the facts where I fall short. For example, last week, said some F-bombs. Not proud of it, but working on it. Very rarely. My kids are like, oh, you don't cuss, daddy don't cuss. They notice it now. I fell short. That wasn't nothing but the devil leading up to baptism. And then I start asking for things. Because you always got to ask. You ask, you shall receive. It might not be on your timing, but I realized a lot of the blessings and things I was praying for, I see like the works of that after 3-4 years after. You can't rush this process. You can't. And then after that, I start praying for others. Just putting a prayer out. People I love. People's peace. People in bondage, trying to find themselves. That's one thing I take from this and this whole experience is I'm just understandable. I understand everybody goes through different things at different times. I used to be quick to cast stones and judge people with screenshot, talk trash, and now I try to redirect that narrative. Like, quote unquote, it might be funny there, but I'm like, you never know what someone's going through, or, I'm gonna pray for them. I don't even like casting stones. Like, some of the things I thought were funny at a time is not funny for me no more. I just done but prayer. And pray them and hope they get back on the right track. And you'll know it's the right track because you'll feel some peace after you do it. Like right now, after doing this podcast episode, it was always been in me. That's why I started this podcast, because I always wanted to create this episode. I always wanted to inspire and share this story, but I wasn't fully healed. And I'm fully healed now. And this is something that happened 1.5 years ago, so I can speak on it. And I've grown from it. And that's all glory to God. I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. It's Mental Health Awareness Month. Check on your strong friends. Check on your friends. Be mindful. Keep God first. I'll close this one out. We are all like sticks of dynamite. The power's on the inside, but nothing happens until the fuse gets lit. Ignite the world.